Welcome to the podcast. We've got Jack this week, who's a younger version of Simon. Simon with more hair. Shall we do one more intro?
I don't think someone's going to like that one.
And we've got Jack this week, who is one of our strategic account managers. Are you an account manager? Account director?
I'm a senior marketing manager, but I think you could call me a strategic account manager. Either one works, to be honest.
We've got Simon 2.0 here.
Simon, the younger, sexier version of Simon
efficient.
Cliff.
Yeah,
more efficient.
Yeah,
streamlined.
That's it.
V2.
More everything.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Right, Jack. We're kicking ourselves off with some news. All right, you ready? We've got, first of all, Microsoft has just invested in a massive other AI company. Basically, they've made a big investment in OpenAI, and that's powering all of their things at the moment. And they've just announced a partnership with another one called Mistral AI, which is basically, from what I understand, them saying, we don't want to put all our eggs in the OpenAI basket. Which is just funny to me. Just OpenAI has been like the player for so long, and now someone is sort of coming in. And
OpenAI is the big dog. Like when I was on the App Store and I typed in like ChatGPT, and you can't. This might sound really obvious, but you can't get. But it's like powered by OpenAI. There's like loads of clones that build upon OpenAI. So it's like the one. What do you mean by hedge its bets? What have they actually done? What are they doing?
So basically, I don't know what they're doing, but essentially they've said OpenAI can't be our only AI provider, and they've basically gone and put money into a competitor.
But they've not said what it is.
They've just said they're investing in it to accelerate AI innovation.
That's strange, isn't it? Because you'd think they'd be like gung-ho on one thing, but
yeah, I mean, they have been up until now. That's why I think it's quite interesting. But the thing here is it might be just to give partners like people who use Amazon Azure and build on it a different option. Like it might be, people might be going, I don't want to use just OpenAI. And it might be to pass it on to customers.
But then they'll need to have it. It will need to be different from OpenAI, right? Like it needs to be different enough. It can't be the same thing. What's the point? There must be some differentiator.
Not necessarily. Like if you want to use OpenAI, you get a certain set of like AI that's trained on a certain data set. And this one might be trained in a different way. It might be like focusing on different things. I haven't looked into it, to be honest, but here you go. Their partnership is apparently focused on 3 core areas: supercomputing infrastructure. Got no idea what that is. That sounds scary. Scale to market. So spinning things up. Cool. And research and development.
Have they put a deadline or a timeline on when this is going to be live? Were they going to announce more info? Is it just
this is coming? Ink in the contracts. And as you and I know, the time between signing contracts and things happening can be a long time, or it can be
a very, very long time. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see what that's going to be.
Beyond that, Jack, Elon Musk's suing OpenAI, which is always a fun one. Now, the reason people seem to think they're suing OpenAI is he's suing them is because they're supposed to be a not-for-profit that publishes their work, but now they're keeping everything closed and trying to make a profit instead. There was a big blow-up earlier last year about this. Weirdly, when you look into it, he's actually arguing that OpenAI has created a tax loophole and it's using non-deductible non-profit rules and making a lot of profit.
Is that true? Like, is he right?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but I wouldn't be shocked. They do keep calling themselves a non-profit.
But they must be, they must be making money from it. Of course they are.
Some slightly more positive AI news is a company called Klarna.
Yeah. Big deal.
Have launched chatbot that basically does customer support. Did it months ago, and it's handling 2/3 of customer chats now, which is the equivalent of 700 people, agents, which is an actual success story rather than people just talking about using AI and being like, look at this. Look, I generated an image. This is like real world functioning mess.
Wait, so is this saying it's taken 700 human jobs? Because I thought chatbots have been AI for like the last 10 years. Or is this like, is it actually taken, were there 700 people actually doing this before?
No, they're saying it's doing the work of 700 people.
Oh, okay. So, but like, because Klarna must have used chatbots before the time of OpenAI, but it's like they've now had it's like chatbots on steroids kind of thing. Is that what you mean?
I guess so. I haven't dug into what they're exactly doing, but I imagine it's probably dealing with more complex requests. And the main thing here is when you used to build chatbots in the past, you'd have to basically create a big tree of like, this is, if someone says this, these are the possible responses. And you were really constrained. And I think what they've done here is opened it up to more general. So it can just process questions and they'll have like their policies in the back. And it'll just go and read that document and be like, this is what we say. So there's less like programming involved and more, I don't know what you call it, more just it doing it itself, which is kind of impressive. But on the podcast last week, we talked about this. There's an example in Canada where an airline was doing the same thing, and it just made up a refund policy and started refunding people stuff. And the courts ruled that they have to honor it because it was their technology, and now they have to pay for all these refunds.
What, because someone got on the chatbot and bamboozled it into like agreeing to give a refund?
Pretty much. Well, no, what they said is it hallucinated a new policy. Like, I just made one up and then started being like, it was to do with bereavement. And it was like, here you go, you can have your money back because you claimed there was bereavement.
I have seen something like this. Again, it probably was on Twitter. It was like someone was like using a chatbot to talk about, it was like a big car brand. I forget what brand it was. And they essentially got the chatbot to agree to sell them a car for like $5 or something like that. And then they had the company like, hey, Volvo. And I was like, where's my thingy for like funds? And it's like, yeah. So they definitely the fact that they were like legally had the legal precedent to actually win that, and they were obliged to do it, is a bit nuts.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. But then where else would the responsibility lie? Like, if you're going to launch these things, this is probably like the cautionary tale. Like, if you're going to launch these things, make sure they work exceptionally well, because
if I was Klarna, I'd be straight on the phone to OpenAI being like, you just cost me, like, I'd put the cost back on them. That's what I'd do.
So for the stuff we're doing at Branch Road, the AI stuff, I've read all of their sort of liability documents, and there's no way it's going back on OpenAI. Like, you generate any images, you do anything, and they're like, that's on you. If you get sued for copyright, that's on you. Yeah, they're basically washing their hands of anything you create. They're like, we provide the output, but how you use it is on you.
I don't know. I feel like at some point there's gonna be a colossal fuck up in the future at some point, and that's going to be examined. But until that happens, we don't know, because everything's new and emerging at this stage. Yeah, that's gonna get dicey, I think.
Yeah, the other one that I find really interesting, which has probably happened but we'll never hear about it happening, is people using insights from it, like executives, to make decisions, and then those decisions going poorly.
Well, as in like ask, like use like a magic 8-ball kind of thing. Like, what should I do?
Yeah, I mean, probably more sophisticated than Magic 8-ball, but yeah, a CEO sort of going and getting all these insights, and then actioning things on it, like entire company strategies on it.
That's on you, bro. If you're asking a computer to tell you what to do, that's on you. That's your own that mistake.
Yeah, but there'll be someone that's like, oh, nah, it told me to.
Yeah, but like if you're an executive in a company, you presumably have been doing it for a long time. You can't be like, oh, the computer told me what to do. It's like, do you know what I mean? That's I don't want to say pathetic, but that is a bit, to get like career advice from ChatGPT. It's like, you need to give yourself a wobble.
The other thing I've got here is BBC released its editorial guidelines for its news team on how they use OpenAI. And there's some real interesting stuff in here. Like, one of the things Simon and I talk about frequently is how we integrate it into our services. And basically what they are saying is that everything they create, like the tools are going to be integrated. They're already doing it. But everything they create will be looked over by real people. Human editorial oversight and approval. And this is the thing Simon and I have been banging on about for weeks is like, it's cool, you can go and use these tools, but you need someone to be looking at them and A, fact checking and making sure stuff isn't going way off, and B, like just make sure it's good. Like they're talking about consistency with editorial guidelines here. They're talking about human oversight and approval. And then they sort of get deeper into algorithmic bias and training data and making sure like what is being said is...
Number 5 ties on to your hallucinations thing from before, right?
Well, exactly. This comes back to fact checking. Like, is this thing just making stuff up? Because it kind of, one of the best descriptions I've heard of it is it's kind of like a 5-year-old. You ask it a question and it could be like, here are all the facts I got from the internet, but could also just be like, this is how I'm feeling today. And I'm desperate to answer your question, whether it's right or not. Do you know when you talk to a little kid and they're like, they'll just give you a random answer?
I mean, yeah, I do. I can relate to that, but in my understanding of AI, that it's programmed to exactly not do those things you talked about. But yeah, like the fact we're talking about like AI and hallucinations in the same sentence is like, how did we get here? Do you know what I mean? Like, how is this? Like, we go a year ago, talking about AI hallucinations, you'd be like, that's like some forgotten Beatles song or something like that. But clearly not.
Yeah. Like the big thing here on the hallucinations is content presented as accurate, which may in reality be a creation of the algorithm. And just making sure that doesn't happen. And that's where the fact checking and anyone using these for news or anything else, whether it's marketing, like you need someone over the top just being like, no, that's wrong. Because otherwise you're going to get into a lot of trouble.
It's a shame Simon's not here with his BBC roots, because I know he'd be all over these.
Yeah,
he would love to get his read.
He would be loving it, and what he'd be doing, because he loves doing it every podcast, is going, what does this mean for copyright? Let's get a lawyer in to talk about copyright. Which is the next one, where it can often just like phrase things and lift things. And if you're not careful and you're not checking that it's been lifted, there's a high chance you're just copying someone. And
yeah, I'm sure this is going to be like every school kid and university student is probably like in real trouble at the minute, falling foul number 6.
Already is, I think.
Yeah,
I think that's the main one for us. Use cases. They say how they're using it. Yeah, to create content, to support editorial production and research. So this is one we're sort of using more at Branch Road than actually creating the content. We're mainly using it for research. And then distribution and curation is an interesting one that probably doesn't apply to us so much.
Is it time for my questions?
It's time for Jack Everyman questions.
Yeah. Everyman. I thought Everyman could have 2 ends on it. I mean, I look at this and I think, what the questions, if I was a client on the other side of it, so I deal with the account manager side of things, that is my job. Rhys is the brains, I'm the mouth of the business, is the best way of looking at it. But you hear now a lot about agencies and any kind of creative company using AI more for content development, generation, planning, all that kind of stuff. And if I was on the flip side of that, if I was a customer of an agency using AI, the first thing I'd ask was, that's great, but does that mean you're spending less time on it? If you had Rhys, if you were writing all the blogs and then suddenly you're now using ChatGPT or something else like that, does that mean you're spending 2 hours to knock out 6 blogs? And if you're doing that, that means I'm paying you less money, right? I know that's how I would think about that. If I was on the other side of it, that's what I would think. So I guess, Rhys, you're the best person to answer that question.
Completely. I mean, I think you get to a deeper question there, which is why the hell do you need an agency anymore if ChatGPT
Yeah,
is doing that?
that's another thing I'm wrestling with. But I think let's deal with the top one first, then we can dig into it a bit more.
So for me, it's exactly the thing Simon and I bang on this podcast about endlessly, which is ChatGPT or whatever you're using isn't producing A-class content. It is the median of all of the information on the internet. So if you want purely average, go to ChatGPT. If you're just like, this is serviceable, not even serviceable, if this is like bang middle of the road, no one really cares about it, but bland content, you're probably you can get that today. The thing we're looking at and the thing that our value is really coming in, and we're going through a lot of processes at the moment in the content team to figure out where we can add value above ChatGPT and not just like spew out median content like ChatGPT, which I think a lot of agencies do. And some key areas we're sort of zooming in on are that journalistic style. It's going and interviewing people. It's getting like ChatGPT can't go and do an interview. So it's just calling someone, getting their opinion, getting interesting people on the phone, and adding that into our content. And then the other side of that is research. Research is a big one, like especially first-party research. So again, ChatGPT can't ingest all that information if it doesn't have it or it doesn't exist. So us going and doing research and finding data behind things and putting that into our blogs or whatever we're producing for clients is another massive area that we're trying to upskill. So basically what we're doing is being like the cost and standard to produce average content is now zero, or the subscription to ChatGPT. So what are you getting on top of that? So as much as it's scary for, I think, a lot of agencies and people who write, it is going to lift the standard. It's going to cut out the lazy middle of writers who sit at a desk and Google 10 articles and aggregate them into one and go, this is the information. And it's going to elevate those people who can think and come up with different opinions and really like do the research and do the hard work.
Yeah, I think my way of looking at this is I think it's going to like make it harder to hide. Like it's going to make mediocrity even less intolerable because like any customer can go away and churn out their own. The good stuff is going to stand out way above the mediocre stuff, and there's going to be way more of the mediocre stuff. So like it's now on you. Like AI is here. Okay, now like show me that you aren't cutting corners and that you're using it to like better it. If any agency is taking the time they would spend for a first draft and spending more time on research, great. Now your first draft, you've got to show me that. I've got to see that research in the output. So that's where like all these challenges, like and that's thankfully I'm not a writer, Rhys. That's where you guys have got to step things up. Not step things up, but like show us how we can use AI to like take things further.
Definitely step things up. And I think I said research and journalism. The other one is personality and tone of voice and angles and actually building a voice that people like is the other one, which is really, really hard to replicate. And those are the sort of differentiators I can see that are AI proof at the moment. We're still working through trying to find other ones as an agency, but that's kind of what's happening.
The question that we're getting asked is, are you saving time on it? Does that mean my cost is reduced? But your answer is no, because we're reinvesting that time in other parts of the process, which means the output will be even better because we've utilized AI in a smart way, right? That's essentially what's going to happen or what needs to happen.
Completely. The flip side of this, and it's a question we've been asking a lot, is if you're spending less time and effort creating something, where else can you put that budget?
Yeah.
Can we do 10 times the amount of content?
Okay, I've got like a bonus question, which I've been like wrestling with this one all week. I don't know if it's like a bit too pie in the sky, but did you think like AI, does it kind of like almost diminish the value of content? Like I liken this to like with the printing press. Like before the printing press, only monks could write when they copied up the Bible like 100 times. Suddenly the printing press came along, and the ability to write wasn't like so. The gatekeeping aspect of it kind of makes the actual work less valuable. Like, does this mean that content is now cheaper or like just abundant or
100%.
yeah?
The cost to produce it is significantly lower and almost zero.
It's tough, but it's the effort involved now. Like, you could just type in like write me a blog on, give it 5 buzzwords, and ChatGPT will have a stab in the dark and do like an okay job. Before that, it was like if you need to have like some basic level of writing skills to do that. But yeah, so it's like a nagging feeling. It's like, is this a question or is it just a fear? Like, is everything now just cheapened?
Everything is much cheaper. I'm just going to pull up a diagram that I don't think you've seen that we've been working on that kind of says exactly this. So this is just a diagram we've been working on. Let's make sure. Basically, this is where we see it going. Like, traditionally, all of the efforts come in the content creation. Like, all of the strategy stuff has required less effort or less time, and the actual production is where all the costs are involved.
Right.
Now this is kind of shared off a lot of it and moving up this value chain, especially for agencies or people creating stuff. Like, if you can get all this stuff aligned, if you can get your positioning and messaging aligned, what you feed into the AI probably comes in about here. What you can feed into that AI is more targeted, and you can produce stuff at a lower cost. But you need to get this stuff correct. If you get this stuff wrong and all of your strategy is messed up, there's no point. AI is not going to help you. You're just going to be creating stuff that doesn't work for you. So it's moving up that value chain for us in particular that I think about a lot of, like, you'll know this internally. I don't think we talk about it that much externally, but we've done a lot of work to really hone in on how we help companies go to market with their narratives and their positioning. And we've just brought a massive market research piece into our latest work with a couple of clients, where we go out and get real hard data on where their clients are hanging out. Their customers are hanging out, with some really interesting results, like looking into Discord and communities like that and how we can infiltrate that and use that to our advantage as well. So yeah, that movement, and I think you've hit it right on the head, that the cost of content is going down. And so that strategy is going to be more important, but also what you can produce for the same price is probably going to go up. Like, can you spend more on video because you're spending less on production of blogs?
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't really even considered that. You're right. Yeah, it's going to be a seismic shift. I hate that phrase, but I've just said it. But yeah, it's going to be a big difference. And I guess it's on my second question, which you could have like already touched upon a bit, is it like everyone's already doing this now? Like, if I'm sure the bulk of people will be just, I don't know, not cutting corners or being lazy, but like if you just put in like a bog standard ChatGPT entry, you'll get a bog standard output.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what's stopping the market from being flooded with? Because you see on like Twitter all the time, like all my classes' essays exactly the same, or use the same keywords. They're like, that's not going to be any different with like online content.
No.
What's going to stop AI content from just being the same thing rehashed over and over and over and over again?
Nothing. That's what it is. And it's going to continue, and there's just going to be a massive tidal wave of it. And that's our opportunity, I'd almost say. Like, it's our opportunity to figure out how to stand out in that massive sludge of noise.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess so.
distribution-wise, I'm sure things like Google will figure out how to filter out the things people aren't enjoying.
Yeah, like even if like the word, I'm sure like at some point the plagiarism thing will be like they'll find a way to express the same sentiment using different words. Even it will be the same tepid opinions rehashed. It'll be the same listicle, the same bullet point, the same thoughts, just expressed using different words. So it doesn't so it tricks you, I guess. I think if you're doing it, it's like, oh, that's the same article that's been produced a million times already.
Totally, but let's be honest, that's been happening for the past 5 years, just not with machine. Like content writers have been sitting there just Googling 10 articles, aggregating them, and being like, new piece of work. I don't think that's a new problem. I think the volume of the problem and the scale of the problem is increased. And yeah, I hate to say it again, but it's produce quality stuff that people want to consume, and you're good.
Yeah, no, you're right there. Because if I was again, I keep putting myself in the shoes of one of our customers. If I was one of our clients, and as we all know, yeah, marketing budgets across the tech sector absolutely slashed last year. I'd be thinking like, how can me, a plucky marketing executive or marketing manager, do more for less? How can I bring some ROI on the table? I know I'll go away. I'll use ChatGPT, or I'll use Google Bard or Google Gemini, whatever it is, and I'll churn out my own stuff, and then it'll bring the cost down, and I'll be a hero in the boardroom, right? And I'm sure that has happened all over the place, but it's like, why? What's stopping customers or clients or anybody, not just our clients, from doing that, from just having a go themselves?
Nothing, and they are, and
Yeah.
you also know they are because clients have been sending you things. But the thing that I think it's getting to, and I don't know how this is something you package up and sell, but the thing you're going to be paying for is people with taste and people with opinions and people with that can direct the content into in a way that is interesting and captures people's attention, whether that's formats or whether that's angles or what they're saying. But almost going forward, I think what people will be paying for is the ability to curate the information out of these AI algorithms and just be like, this is what people actually want to hear about. The rest of this is crap. What that looks like is something you sell, no idea.
And in a year's time, like it'll just be AI content is going to be the new normal. Dare I use that phrase? But yeah, it's going to be things are going to become clearer as we go on.
Yeah, or we won't have jobs.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be out on real. Yeah.
Basically, AI will take this podcast and just keep producing it, but it won't be us. Have I got anything else here to freak out? And then we'll wrap it up because we're almost at an hour. Last thing. Let's get your opinions on this, Jack, and then we'll end on a low note because Crisis Corner's always got some fun stuff going on. The UK released a report probably last month on risks and opportunities. The UK government, sorry. Risks and opportunities. Our evidence was clear that LLMs will act as a force multiplier, enhancing malicious capabilities in the first instance rather than introducing new risks. So it's not necessarily creating new problems. It's being like the problems we have, the scammers can do it at 10x scale. You can get 100 people being like, I'm a prince and I have my fortune. So that was an interesting. These are all the immediate risks, by the way. They also go into like the long-term risks, which we'll enter another time. But there were some ones that I was like, oh, this is concerning. Likely to be of interest to hostile states, organized crime, and low sophistication actors. They're developing them to create code for cyber attacks at increased scale and pace. So
Yeah.
That's great. Can't wait for that.
No.
And then the ability to, and they think it might be useful for terrorism and propaganda. Great. Cool. You can spread information at wider scale. And then within that, they talked about it's well placed to generate text-based disinformation. So think about elections and things. They can just keep throwing out more and more information. The same thing you talked about of generating a ton of content. Just do it for an election. Do it for Joe Biden.
That was happening anyway. Like if we look back at the Brexit campaign, bloody Cambridge Analytica or whatever it was, like there's enough misinformation out there without ChatGPT. So
exactly,
God knows what
they can
now.
do a ton more. And they're talking about like, yes, you can do it with text right now. Visual and audio is also possible. It's a bit more work, but yeah, what happens when no one can believe anything is the thing I've been talking about, and it's quite scary. Like, does everyone just become incredibly cynical? Like everyone's like, oh, cool. Is it real? Who cares? And then the thing that I thought was fascinating off the back of this was during the 2016 elections in the US, there was a company called the Internet Research Agency, which did a disinformation campaign. And they reckon it cost about $10 million. Today, with all these tools, they think an individual could do it for $1,000.
But how can you just like openly admit you ran a disinformation campaign and not be in prison?
I'm not sure if they actually ran it or whether it's research they did into the disinformation campaign. It was very unclear in the report.
Okay, because it sounds like you can't be down. Oh yeah, like, oh, by the way, we ran this massive campaign that caused chaos. Like, oh, thanks. Yeah, that's a crazy stat. That is right there.
Yeah.
10 million to 1,000 in the space of what, 8 years?
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers. And I think, I mean, another way to look at this is what would you like? What does it change? How does it change the world if someone had $10 million instead of $1,000 and everyone had that money to go and do something? That's a different world. I mean, inflation and economics aside, like if it held its value and everyone had that money to go and do something at $10 million of scale, it's just a different equation. And as everyone's running their little disinformation campaigns about,
everyone's got a propaganda farm in their pocket.
Like, what if I just decide to run a Jack takes crack disinformation campaign and just blast that out? Like, imagine you're a school bully and you're running a full campaign.
I mean, you've probably got quite a long career ahead of you if that's true.
That's true, but yeah, that's kind of the weird, creepy world we're going into, and I'm interested to see what like the next generation's take on it is, because I can kind of feel our generation, slowly becoming the people that are like, do you know how your parents can't tell the difference between a scam website and a real website?
Yeah.
What's our version of that? And I think it's some of this stuff where the younger generations, that's obviously AI, and we're like, did you see the latest headline on this? Yeah, I can slowly see that trend happening to people our age and being like, fuck.
That'll be sad. That'll be a sad day. We're on the other side of the glass looking in.
Yeah. And, I mean, it happens. It happens to every generation. So on that cheering note, let's wrap this up, Jack. It's been a hell of a doomy week. I feel like we've covered some stuff. we'll see how much of it makes the cut. But
yeah, see how much makes the cut at the end.
Yeah. Anyway, until next week. We might have Simon back next week. Jack, we'll be back next week with more questions.
Yeah, I'm back next week. I'm there.
You look so surprised. Yeah.
I've made the cut.